Breakups hurt, and that is something almost everyone understands, but very few people truly accept. Because on the surface, a breakup looks like just the end of a relationship. But emotionally, it feels like something much deeper. It feels like losing a part of your routine, your identity, your emotional safety, and sometimes even your sense of future. And that is why breakups don't just hurt your heart, they disturb your entire inner world. When a relationship ends, it is not only the person you miss, it is the conversations, the habits, the emotional dependency, the expectations, and the imagined future that disappears. Your brain doesn't just process it as someone left, it processes it as something important is gone. And that triggers emotional pain, confusion, overthinking, and sometimes even physical discomfort. But here's the truth that most people don't hear often enough. Breakups are not just endings, they are emotional transitions. And how you handle that transition decides whether you grow from it or stay stuck in it. Most people try to heal in the wrong way. They distract themselves, avoid thinking about it, jump into another relationship, or suppress their emotions. But suppression is not healing. Distraction is not healing. Replacement is not healing. Healing is something much deeper. Real healing begins when you stop running from your emotions and start understanding them. Let's go deeper into what actually happens after a breakup. In the beginning, your mind enters a shock phase. Even if the breakup was expected, your emotional system still struggles to accept the reality. You keep replaying conversations in your head. You analyze what went wrong. You imagine alternative outcomes. You think about what you could have done differently. This is your brain trying to make sense of emotional disruption. Because the brain does not like unfinished emotional stories. It tries to close loops. And when closure is not immediately available, it creates mental repetition. That is why you keep thinking about the same person again and again, even when you don't want to. It is not weakness, it is your brain trying to process emotional attachment. Then comes the emotional phase. This is where pain becomes more intense. You feel emptiness, sadness, anxiety, and sometimes even anger. You may feel like something is missing from your daily life. You may feel unmotivated or disconnected. And you may also experience emotional withdrawal symptoms because your brain was used to emotional connection, and now it suddenly has none. This is where many people make a mistake. They think the pain means they should go back. But pain is not always a sign to return. Sometimes pain is a sign of withdrawal. Just like any emotional attachment, your brain experiences discomfort when something it was dependent on is removed. And this is where real healing decisions begin. The first step in healing the right way is acceptance. Not fake acceptance, not forced acceptance, but real emotional acceptance. Accepting that the relationship has ended, accepting that the dynamic has changed, accepting that the past cannot be recreated exactly as it was. Acceptance does not mean you are happy about it. It means you stop resisting reality, because resistance keeps pain alive. The more you fight reality, the longer you stay stuck in emotional conflict. Once you accept, the second step is emotional expression. Most people suppress their feelings after a breakup because they think expressing emotions makes them weak. But emotions that are not expressed don't disappear. They get stored. So instead of suppressing, you need to allow yourself to feel. Cry if you need to. Write your thoughts. Talk to yourself honestly. Acknowledge what you are feeling instead of denying it. Because healing begins when emotions are acknowledged, not ignored. Now let's talk about something very important. Overthinking. After a breakup, the mind becomes extremely active. It keeps analyzing the past. It keeps replaying scenarios. It keeps searching for answers. But not all answers bring closure. Sometimes overthinking creates more confusion instead of clarity. So one of the most powerful healing steps is learning to separate useful thinking from destructive thinking. Useful thinking is reflection. It helps you understand what went wrong, what patterns existed, and what you can learn. Destructive thinking is rumination. It repeats the same thoughts without new understanding. It creates emotional pain without progress. Healing requires you to slowly reduce rumination and increase reflection. Now let's go deeper into emotional attachment. You don't just miss the person after a breakup. You miss the emotional connection, the familiarity, the validation, and the sense of being chosen. And sometimes you confuse attachment with love. But attachment is not always love. Attachment is emotional dependency. It is your brain becoming accustomed to someone's presence in your life. And when that presence is gone, your brain reacts like something essential is missing. This is why breakups feel like withdrawal, because in many ways, they are emotional withdrawal. But withdrawal always reduces with time, if you don't keep reopening the wound. One of the biggest mistakes people make is repeatedly checking their ex's social media, replaying old chats, or revisiting memories. This does not help healing. It delays it. Because every time you reconnect with the past emotionally, you restart the healing process. So healing requires emotional distance, not to punish the other person, but to protect your own mind. Now let's talk about identity loss. After a breakup, many people don't just lose a partner, they lose part of their identity. Because in a relationship, you start seeing yourself as part of a we. And when that we disappears, your sense of I feels incomplete. This is why some people feel lost after breakups. They don't know what to do with their time, their emotions, or their routine, because their life was emotionally structured around another person. So healing also means rebuilding identity. You need to reconnect with yourself, your interests, your goals, your friendships, your routines. You need to slowly shift focus from what we were to who I am now. Now let's talk about emotional triggers. Certain places, songs, conversations, or memories can suddenly bring back emotional pain. This is normal. Your brain associates emotions with experiences. So when something reminds you of the past, it reactivates that emotional network. Instead of avoiding triggers completely, healing means slowly desensitizing yourself to them. Over time, they lose emotional intensity. But this happens naturally when you stop feeding emotional attention to them. Now let's understand something very important. Healing is not linear. Some days you will feel okay. Some days you will feel emotional again. Some days you will think you have moved on, and suddenly a memory will hit you. This does not mean you are going backwards. It means your emotional system is still processing. Healing is like waves, it rises and falls. But overall direction is forward, even if it doesn't always feel like it. Now let's talk about self-blame. After breakups, many people start blaming themselves. They replay every mistake. They think, if I had done this differently, maybe things would have worked. But this mindset keeps you stuck in the past. Yes, reflection is important, but self-punishment is not. You need to learn from your mistakes without turning them into identity. You are not your past relationship. You are not your mistakes. You are someone who experienced something and is now growing from it. Now let's go deeper into emotional detachment. Detachment does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop depending emotionally. It means your peace is no longer tied to someone else's presence or absence. It means you can remember the past without reliving the pain. And this is the goal of healing. Not forgetting, not suppressing, but neutralizing emotional intensity. Now let's talk about time. Time alone does not heal. Time combined with awareness heals. Because if you keep repeating emotional patterns, time will pass, but healing will not happen. That is why two people can go through the same breakup, but have completely different outcomes. One grows from it, the other stays stuck in it. The difference is not time. The difference is emotional processing. Now let's come to the most important stage of healing: growth. True healing is when your focus shifts from what I lost to what I learned. When you stop seeing the breakup as just pain and start seeing it as experience. When you realize that every emotional experience teaches you something about yourself, your boundaries, your attachment patterns, and your emotional needs. At that point, the breakup becomes a lesson, not just a loss. And this is where transformation happens, because you are no longer the same person who entered that relationship. You are more aware, more conscious, more emotionally intelligent. And the final truth is this: healing does not mean you erase love. It means you transform pain into understanding. And once that happens, the past no longer controls you. It becomes part of your growth. So yes, breakups hurt. But they also reveal who you are when love is gone. And if you heal the right way, you don't just recover, you evolve.